Oh, snap, you guys. It's the fuzz. Be cool. Everybody be cool. Act natural. Goodbye. Nothing's wrong here. Whew. Looks like the coast is clear, which means that it's okay. It's all right. It's the sometimes vlog. Let's just hug this thing. It's a vlog that happens sometimes. Welcome back, everybody, to Disneyland Paris. Look at that back there, Le Chateau de Belle-Bois Dormant, the castle of the sleeping chick who was kind of cute in the forest with something. It's Sleeping Beauty's castle, the Paris edition. And it's time for us to soak in as much of the weird and unusual, like the Main Street Police paddy wagon over there, and this beautiful castle as possible. Also, these crazy lights up here, whoa! And every other unusual little thing at Disneyland Paris. Why is it time to soak them all up? Because soon it is time for me to be returning to Etats Unis, or whatever they call the United States here, the United States of America, my home and the birthplace of Walt Disney's original dreams for Disneyland, California. More specifically, Anaheim, California, where not only the original Disneyland is, but where my domicile is, the place where I lay my head when I'm not laying it at sweet Disneyland Paris hotels. Look at that. Over there is Discoveryland, where we were hanging out the other day riding the Autopia. We, of course, walked all through this castle together. Oh no, someone lost their frozen balloon. Someone lost their frozen balloon. Wait a minute, that's a good thing. Maybe summer will come now. They'll get another balloon, don't worry. That's the thing you may not know about Disney parks. Here, look at the best laid plans of mice and men oft go awry, and here is one of those times where I was about to say something and transition to something else I wanted to talk about, but first, before I do that, if you lose a balloon at Disney and you have your receipt still, you can in fact go to a balloon vendor and they will usually replace that balloon for you, especially if one of the ears pops on Mickey or something like that happens. Go take the receipt, keep the receipt every time you get a balloon, and if it's deflating or anything's wrong with your balloon, you can usually exchange it for another free replacement. Look at that. So amazing. Okay, so over there at Discoveryland, where we were hanging out riding the Autopia the other day, we went in all through this castle with our friends from England, a Brit and a fake Brit. We rode Dumbo in the freezing rain. We walked all over Fantasyland back there. We've done a lot of stuff on the Sometimes vlog since I have been in France. We wandered over Paris and all kinds of other stuff too. But more specifically about the parks, we've done all this crazy stuff here, but there's one area which we haven't gone to, which is over here. Look at this, everybody. This before you is the entrance to Frontierland, and before we walk through it, I just want to point this out. Look at over here. Before you even get to the entrance, there are all these little side paths and things so that you don't need to go anywhere near the hub. That way, if there's some kind of fireworks show or some kind of crazy thing going on in the center over here, you have all kinds of alternative options so that you don't have to walk through the crowds, which I find particularly pleasing. Also at Disneyland Paris are all kinds of covered walkways nestled and hidden throughout this stuff so that you can get pretty much from the front to the back of the park, even when it's pouring rain, which has been extremely useful for me in the first half of this trip, without getting too terribly wet. Look at this Indian village over here. I'm told that in the summer, Pocahontas does a meet and greet over here. And that is super awesome because it's already setting the mood before you even enter any of the various lands here. Either you have to go through that elaborate castle or journey to the future pastness thing over here in Discoveryland. And over here in Frontierland, to journey in, you have to pass all this elaborate theming and through this magnificent, ginormous Frontier Fort. Now, in all the vlogs I've ever done here at Disneyland Paris, we have never actually journeyed into Frontierland together, and there's a very good reason for that. It's because most of Frontierland is actually under refurbishment. It started being under refurbishment just a few weeks or a few months before I came last time, and now it is still, as you can see, under refurbishment to this day. Entering Frontierland, there's this whole huge stockade Frontier Fort, which I wanted to film over and over again and haven't had the chance yet, with this whole crazy elaborate walkway, and there's dioramas and things about the Old West. It's kind of a combination of Fort Langhorne at Magic Kingdom, or what old Fort Wilderness used to be at Disneyland, and of course the entrance to Disneyland's Frontierland, which is a similar type of Frontier stockade log fort, but not on such an elaborate scale. This leads to one of those covered walkways I was talking about. There's the dioramas and stores in here. Let's see if we can poke our heads into one of the dioramas. It's hard to film with this camera in the dark, so it's hard to show you, but this whole stockade and fort is filled. Whoa. I was expecting there to be mannequins in here because there's mannequins in some of the other ones, but I wasn't greeted by mannequins. I was greeted with the Frontier Funky bedroom. I'm like, let's hang out. let's do what we need to do in here and get clean with a pitcher of water. Just dump it all over ourselves and then cover ourselves with honey and see what happens. What am I talking about? Oh, okay. Here's some dioramas in here. You got Buffalo Bill preparing for one of his Wild West shows with some of his homies in there. Look at some of his homies. La homies on the scene. The showman heading east with a Wild West show. Doesn't say who those other dudes are, but we know that guy is Buffalo Bill Cody, which, by the way, one of the engines at the Disneyland Railroad here is named the WF Cody, which is pretty cool. Cody's a weird first name, but it turns out it was a super cool last name for this guy, Buffalo Billy Bob Billy Bill. What am I talking about? Anyway, there's a whole thing in there, but all the dioramas up here are extremely dimly lit and sheltered and hidden from the bright and glaring sun, which makes them difficult to film on the vlog. But I wanted to give you a little sample of how elaborate just the entrance to Frontierland is, much less Frontierland itself. Frontierland here is all themed around the fictional town of Thunder Mesa, and it's really centered around Big Thunder Mountain, which here is an even bigger, crazier attraction. It's like all of our Big Thunder Mountains, I'm told, but on steroids. I have never actually been on Big Thunder Mountain here at Disneyland Paris because, like I said, the entire time that I've been coming here, it has been under refurbishment, covered with walls. You can actually see workmen up there working on it right now. That's something I've noticed about France. Little side note here, something I've noticed about Disneyland Paris is you see workmen painting and doing stuff and like heavy construction going on during the day. You would never see that in a US park. They save all that stuff for nighttime, but I've guessed, and several people have told me I'm correct, although I don't know for sure that I'm correct because it's just their educated guess as well, that France must have very different labor laws or something, because I haven't really seen a lot of work going on at nighttime, but mostly only work going on in the day. So they have these crazy elaborate fences going all across all of Frontierland. Now, just because Big Thunder is closed doesn't mean that Frontierland has nothing to offer, but it is a huge, huge land all centered around the centerpiece of Big Thunder Mountain, with the rivers of America traveling around Big Thunder Mountain. And Big Thunder Mountain itself is actually on an island. It actually is its own whole island. You board the trains and they go under the rivers of America, up into Big Thunder Mountain, and all around through this huge, crazy roller coaster here. And they have the Mark Twain and the Molly Brown, these two steamships that are circling around, and all of that sadly is closed and off limits to us. However, there's still a very cool, unusual, and a wonderful attraction in Frontierland that you may be very extremely interested in, and it is this. Right over here at the one end of Frontierland, the very bottomy, most southern portion, I guess you could say, one extreme end of Frontierland is this. Now, what in the world is that? Many of you already know what it is, and I'm being super cool and casual about it. And this vlog is not about this, but we are going to come over here and mention it just to be, just to silence everybody who's continually bugging me about this. Constantly, everybody, since I've been coming to Disneyland Paris, is, what about this? What about this? What about this? So fine, let's spoil your appetite. Let's spoil your dinner and come walk over this way and talk a little bit about the Phantom Manor. This is what you would all call, or what most people who've ever even heard of this call, Paris's answer to the Haunted Mansion. It's the Phantom Manor. Look over here at the plaque to it, huh? It looks kind of familiar. Looks like the Haunted Mansion, just a little bit, with a few subtle Vincent Price looking question mark changes. There's a little Easter egg for you. Whose face is that? That's good old Vincent Price, the original narrator of the Phantom Manor. Look at how beautiful. Let's just look at it first. Before I say anything else, just take a look at it. You will hear Haunted Mansion type of music out here, and most of the people at home that know anything about this see the outside and assume that inside of Phantom Manor here in Paris is pretty much just the Haunted Mansion. Well, you're right and you're wrong. It's got a whole different, separate storyline all of its own. The rest of the people at home look at the picture of it and go, that's weird. Why is the Psycho House at Disneyland Paris, right? The Psycho House. Well, I could go into a long speech about how Herb Ryman, the original sketch artist for Disney, Land came up with the whole conception of this street that would come off of Main Street, and at the end of it would be this haunted house, and he drew a house very, very similar to this, an old Victorian house that was all creepy, years before Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho movie was even made. And that later, when the Imagineers were going back to that concept artwork and coming up with the idea of an Old West version of the Haunted Mansion, they not only drew upon that sketch, but also took their inspiration from the 4th Ward School. Look it up, Google this. I want you to Google this. I want you to Google this. 4th Ward School in Virginia City, Nevada. Yes, where we've been before. And created this wonderful house. I could tell you all that, but you're still gonna look at this house and think, Norman Bates, it looks just like the Psycho house. So there's really no point. Let's just go with, it looks just like the Psycho house. Isn't that neat? But really, this is a typical Old West mansion. Having gone to a lot of former mining towns, I have seen a lot of houses that look just like this, and of course, I myself am guilty. Even me, the little history nerd, am guilty of going to all those towns and saying, this thing behind me looks just like the Psycho house. This thing behind me looks just like the Psycho house. Unfortunately, it's really, there's my unfortunately face. Or my scared face. Unfortunately, it's really, really dark in there, as I discovered on my first trip. When I came out on my first trip, the reason I didn't do any vlogs or walk around the outside of Phantom Manor, even though I walk around outside of Haunted Mansion a million times at Disneyland at home, is because I was intending to film the inside of Phantom Manor and then do a whole random, like an edited video and show like all these cool little things and cool stuff about it. And then I didn't end up doing it, not only because all of Big Thunder Mountain and all of Frontierland is crazy under refurbishment, and they're all tied together in this crazy storyline. It's all interconnected, which makes it pretty much impossible to tell the complete story if this is all fenced off. But also, when I did come inside to get some clips of the inside of Phantom Manor with my old camera, the one that destroyed itself, pretty much committed seppuku last time I was here in Paris, it was too dark in there. It is really, really, really dark in there. If you've ever ridden any of the haunted mansions in the United States, you'll know how dark it is. And if you pull out your cell phone or something like that and try and take a picture, how difficult it is to get a clear, good photo of anything on the inside. And now I'm gonna take that and imagine it's video. It's even harder to get a good, clear video of anything on the inside of the Phantom Manor. So those two things sort of ruled it out last time, and then therefore, and what have you, I kind of accidentally, or well, I kind of intentionally at first and then sort of accidentally ended up completely ignoring it as far as the vlog was concerned and not really talking about it. But because people keep asking, show us the Phantom Manor, show us the Phantom Manor, and I keep showing it on Instagram and Snapchat and not showing you anything on the vlog, I had to come over here and give you a little peek. Now it is still very, very windy in France, by the way, so if you're hearing a little wind noise, I apologize. Nothing I can really do about it at this point. There are now all these little microphones that are sneaky, tiny little microphones. You can put one of those wind muffling dead cats on for iPhones and different things like what I make the vlogs with. But I haven't really looked into them. I don't really have any money right now because Europe was breaking me for, you know, $20 of Coca-Cola. Not really, but it's very expensive to be over here, so we'll worry about that when I get home. Anyways, the Phantom Manor. Well, I have good news. I have returned to France this time, and the reason that I avoided it this time is because I did bring a trusty new camera, and I was trying to film it discreetly and go, no one at home will notice, as I film the Phantom Manor and get a cool video going about Phantom Manor. No one will notice that I'm putting that together. I'll just focus on other parts of the thing. But of course, as I make the other vlogs in Fantasyland, people are like, what are you doing? Show us the Phantom Manor. When are you going to show us the Phantom Manor, the Phantom Manor, the Phantom Manor? So there you go. I talked about the Phantom Manor, and now I talked about why I didn't talk about the Phantom Manor. Look at this. Over here's where you load onto the steamboats. They're having a Princess Tiana meet and greet over here, which I think is kind of cool because they're doing the same thing at home at Disneyland where our Mark Twain riverboat is closed. They're using its loading dock to also have a Princess Tiana meet and greet. So that is pretty neat. The weather has been pretty, I'm just gonna give you looks around while I talk about what's going on. The weather has been pretty okay. The last week that I've been in France, the clouds parted and a little bit of sunshine came out, and I've had probably 4 or 5 days where it was actually sunny outside and that I was able to actually film stuff. But as the weather got better in terms of sunshine and not having freezing cold sleet on me or rain, it actually got a lot worse in terms of the wind. And the wind has been blowing like crazy the last couple of days, which really kind of ruled out a lot of outdoor filming because
That's what the sound that you would have heard if I were filming it. But mostly, I realized before we leave France, which is actually coming up very soon, which is why I'm talking fast and trying to get this vlog over really quickly, I realized I had to show a little bit of Frontierland. Frontierland, this is Frontierland as I know it. I know Frontierland as being this thing that's all walled off from me because I've been coming to Disneyland Paris only for the last couple of months. And even though if you added all the time I spent here together, I pretty much almost lived here for a month of my life. It's always looked like this to me, so I don't really know, I don't have a complete picture of Frontierland in my head, but I will say it's full of all kinds of crazy details. Have you ever seen, a couple things here actually really quick, have you ever seen my video about Bodie, the biggest abandoned town in California? B-O-D-I-E, Bodie. If you look up Random Land, Bodie, largest abandoned town in California, gold mining town, you'll see all kinds of ore carts and stuff like this. And so when I see little details like this all looks really ridiculously realistic to me. And of course I spent a lot of time in Virginia City, Nevada, both on the Sometimes vlog and in Random Land. We did 5 weird things in Virginia City. So we looked at all kinds of real life mining towns and mining equipment. And it's pretty cool to see very, very, very realistic depictions of all that stuff here in their fictional town of Thunder Mesa. Look at these people getting a fun pic of these eggs here. It is spring here, so they have all these eggs. There's the Woody and Jesse egg in Frontierland. Otherwise, I don't think there's any other eggs in Frontierland. Anyway, moving on. Look at. So this big platform is at the center of the entrance to Frontierland here. But this is Frontierland to me. Just fences, fences, fences. These shops over here on the other side of me, the Thunder Mesa Mercantile Building and Tobias Norton & Sons, all of these are all tied in with the story of Thunder Mesa and the Ravenswood family that owns that house up there on the hill, which is supposedly haunted by some kind of phantom. It's a little bit different, a little bit darker than Haunted Mansion, but you're gonna have to wait. Don't spoil your appetite. I am filming a totally different video about that, so you will see the inside of it soon. As long as my laptop doesn't kill itself or footage doesn't delete it when I go through security on the flight home. By the way, I'm so paranoid about that every time. I know that it's pretty much impossible, tech people always say, but I'm always super paranoid that I'm gonna put my laptop through one of those scanners and it's just gonna erase all my footage. Whew. Hold on, you gotta give me a second. Anyway, this over here, all these are very elaborate. They have all kinds of like mannequins in them and displays and cool mining equipment. And so the rich, detailed theming of Disneyland Paris continues into Frontierland. Frontierland is actually, Fantasyland and Frontierland here are just so elaborate. They're so full of details. Look at this, even like the Big Thunder's closed sign. All these little signs are all different. They have all these little posters and stuff. They really go all the way to the nines here to theme out everything. Of course, Disneyland Paris also has its own shooting gallery like every other Disneyland Frontierland. Only here, their shooting gallery is all themed around Thunder Mesa as well. Now, yesterday's vlog, when we walked around the entire Walt Disney Studios park, and today's vlog are going to be a little bit scatterbrained. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble speaking. Normally people compliment me on the fact that I can go for an hour or two all crazy in the vlog, non-stop talking, and never let it drop, and be like very well spoken for the most part. I think you're a little deceived, it's not that well spoken, but I can pretty much keep the vlog going the whole time. And I've been sort of mentally stuttering in the last couple of vlogs. That's because I am super tired. So as we walk through beautiful scenic Frontierland, you can see little pieces of what it would be like without all of these fences. As we walk past the fence land, as I call it, look, don't be defensive, okay? It's just, that's what I have to call it right now because that's all there is. Look at Frontierland. There's a little bit of displays over here. You have your outdoor blacksmith area. You have this crazy old school overland tractor over here. So you have cool pieces of scenery left over. But this would be the entrance to Big Thunder Mountain over here. And right now, as you can see, look at this land. Look at the whole land of Frontierland. So if you've been wondering why I haven't been coming over to this side of the park much, why I was staying with the vlogs at Fantasyland mostly, or popping over to Discoveryland, it's because look! Anyway, I've been doing all this crazy triple duty. So I've been getting up, at like 7 in the morning, which is before the sun rises a lot of times over here. Getting up super, super early, going down, taking pictures for Instagram. I think I've taken a few thousand pictures for Instagram here, and doing Snapchat stuff. And of course, filming the vlogs. But I've also been doing filming on all these rides. There've been several people to meet up with, and so every day, pretty much all day, my time has been completely filled up to the point where I'm like, getting up at 7 and going to sleep at like, by the time all the vlogs are uploaded and annotated and everything is done with all that stuff, I'm going to sleep at 1 or 2, sometimes 3 in the morning. When I came back from Paris the other night, I went to bed at like 4 in the morning, so it's not, I'm getting tired, let's put it that way. After a couple weeks of that, it's starting to tell and wear on my brain. But because there's only literally hours left, I can count down by hours when I'm going to board the plane and go back home to California. It is time to take a look. Time to take our last look. See, there you go. There's the my brain shutting down. It's time to take some last looks at Disneyland Paris, and as a result, I have brought you to Frontierland to look at what you're missing out on. So, for everyone who was getting cranky about Justin, what is it with people who are otherwise so supportive and so nice, but then they come in the vlogs and they're like, you showed me something I didn't want to see. I wanted to see something different. Well, you get what you get and you don't throw a foot right now, but people were saying, oh, you showed Fantasyland before, you showed Fantasyland before. Well, fine, here's Frontierland for you. Here's Frontierland. Are you happy now? I'm just kidding. But anyway, it was just one thing that I didn't want to rush over here and be like, yeah, this is the most exciting thing ever, because it's not. It's just all fenced off and boarded up. And while some vlog channels and some quote-unquote Disney vloggers and people like that love to go and show you how, you know, the paint is changing on a temporary fence, I don't care about that kind of stuff at all. I'm like, okay, it's walled off, move on, let's go look at something else. Let's go look at something different. Like, to me, what would be way more interesting is looking at this popcorn guy. Look at this little popcorn guy inside of here. Most of the popcorn booths are all closed. Actually, most of the park is closed. Like, when you walk around, the vast majority of shops, the vast majority of little outdoor carts, the vast majority of restaurants at Disneyland Paris are actually all closed because it's winter, because it was literally snowing when I first got here. Anyway, I was fighting weather the first week I was here too, so I spent an entire week of my life pretty much where it was too wet to vlog much, and too wet to film much, and too wet to kind of do anything outdoors, take a few pictures, and it was literally freezing outside, which I know some of you from Minnesota or Nova Scotia or wherever are gonna say, come on, you wimp. Oh, it's freezing. Oh, it's so freezing. Look at what I'm saying here. Here's their version of Big Thunder Barbecue, which is completely covered with scrims and camouflage netting as it undergoes its own refurbishment. So anyway, I know some of you will be, oh, come on, you wuss. I could have been out there and with my handy cam and jamming it up. I'm from Southern California. It was 80 degrees when I left home. I got here and it was 30-something degrees and snowing on me the first day. That, to me, is something that takes a little time for me to get used to. There's always somebody to one-up you. It could always be worse. I know. That's really not part of the quest for positivity, though. Every time I say something like, oh man, this is a little frustrating, there's always somebody who loves to jump in with, oh, but at least it's not blah, 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 blah. Look it, just because you're colder than me, it doesn't make me any warmer. That is not part of the quest for positivity, is saying that it could be worse. You have to deal sometimes with the way things actually are, and so if they're a little bit miserable, let them be miserable. You try to find the bright side of something while you're doing it, like, hey, but at least this is a cool experience. That's something. Not, oh, but at least you have both of your legs. Well, obviously, there's a difference between being grateful for what you have and, like, you know, going around to people who are upset and annoying them by being like, hey, it could be worse though, because you could have no legs, right? Come on, guys. But anyway, look at this. Fenced off, fenced off, fenced off. So here was the end of most of my travels into Frontierland, because that over there, as I showed you kind of, is a sign to go back into Adventureland towards the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril area of Adventureland. And so I never really went that way. So I never really saw all this crazy mine stuff back here. And here's this Merida meet and greet over here. I think this was the farthest I had come last time into Frontierland, period. Over here is actually a whole Pocahontas Indian village playground that I really didn't know existed last time. And when I left last time and went home to California, I was looking at one of the maps I had brought back for somebody else. I brought somebody back a map, and it showed this whole Pocahontas Indian village, and I was like, I don't remember ever seeing that. Well, there's a good reason I don't remember seeing that. It's because it was all completely boarded up. It's basically a Native American and Indigenous American themed playground over here with like teepees and slides and different stuff. As you can see, they're doing all kinds of construction back here, but since this isn't walled off, I'm assuming it's okay for us to walk back to this area. And I walked back to this area the other day past this Pueblo trading post, which is also closed for the winter, which is, I'm told, a pin trading shop, which is kind of cool, having an old Pueblo style trading post that's a pin trading area. Pin store. And I walked back here and noticed there is actually a little bit of space where we are allowed to go, where we can sort of peek towards what would be, which is, this is the Pocahontas playground. So you can see kinda, I don't know if you can see through there, but you can see some like canoe-shaped slides and little teepee climbing areas. And if you look very carefully, you can see cranes and other such like construction equipment for Big Thunder. And then way back there I don't know if you can see, it's just big white tarp back there. Right here is the covered up shell of the Mark Twain riverboat and the Molly Brown riverboat, which I'm not I know that looks like, oh, Justin, you're trying to poke backstage. If you ride the Disneyland Railroad around, you can actually see them like really, really close. So I'm not showing anything that's off limits or anything like that. I would never do that. I never break the rules. I don't even so much as litter inside of a Disney park, mostly because I have so much respect for what they do there. But it is very cool and very interesting that they do all the construction in the broad daylight. The other day, you could see the cranes and stuff like that working right here, right up against the fence. Very unusual and different than home, but nobody here seems to care. Actually, that's one thing I want to point out. Did you see how many miles of fence we passed? How many miles of fencing? Well, Adventureland is the same way here, and I'll show you a little bit of Adventureland, I hope, tomorrow before I leave. I hope to show it to you before I leave. Adventureland is the same way as this right now. So fully half of the park here at Disneyland Paris is pretty much off limits and shut down. If you go online at this present time, what is this, January? No. We're in February now. February, no, we're in March. I don't even know what month it is. March 2016. If you look at the list of attractions closed for refurbishment at Disneyland Paris, it is like supremely long. And what you don't hear is you do not hear Disneyland Paris fans complaining. You don't hear, like we at home in Anaheim, you close 3 things and everyone in the world starts to lose their mind. Everyone at home starts to lose their mind. You closed everything. You closed everything. Everything's closed. Here at Disneyland Paris, almost everything is actually closed, and everybody here, including me, is actually super stoked to be here. Like, we're at Disney. This is awesome. We get to go on the few things that are open. We get to experience things. Anyway, look, I stopped back there before because I knew this was the entrance to the Cottonwood Creek Ranch. I knew this was the entrance towards the Chaparral Theater, a big theater back here where they have shows, and last time it was a Frozen show. I could not have been less interested, so I never ever came back here. But look at it. It is so well themed. This really, really looks like Colorado or Northern California, especially the northern part of the Eastern Sierras, where like, up by like Mammoth Mountain and stuff like that. This really, really does remind me of California. And the other day when I saw this for the first time back here, it kind of made me homesick. And the reason I actually did venture back here, I was with Philip from DLRP Fans, which is sort of the fresh baked Disney of Disneyland Paris. They kind of wander around and point the camera at things, go look at this update, look at that update. They make some pretty cool videos, so you check them out on YouTube. I was wandering around with him, and both he and I took the very first ride in 8 months on the Disneyland Railroad. Hello. Look at all these people are just sitting here. Hello. On these benches saying hello. Most people hear me speak English and then they all say hello, and I knew it was coming, so it's better to have a preemptive strike before all the young ladies of the area make me feel stupid. So we came back here and watched the Forest of Enchantment show the other day, which is a really cool show. And for the first time I saw this, which used to be their like Big Thunder Ranch, basically their petting zoo that they turn into a frozen summer village. And they have the Frozen show over there. Right now they have this cool spring show with Baloo and Louie and Pocahontas and Tarzan. But he and I came and took the first ride on the Disneyland Railroad in 8 months because the Disneyland Railroad had been closed for refurbishment. So Philip and I came and actually rode on it. But you can see it's been 28 minutes. It took me 28 minutes to walk basically from the entrance of Frontierland over to Phantom Manor and then around to this area on the other far extreme end of Frontierland. You can see it's massive, it's huge. Most of it is fenced off, so you can't really tell what the heck is going on. But you can see, look at the size of it. Look at the sheer size of Frontierland. It's crazy. It's insane. And it's very, very, very beautiful. So over here, look, Frontierland Depot at Thunder Mesa. The train station looks a lot like the original train station for Frontierland, because there once was a Frontierland station at Disneyland in Anaheim. And they have these beautiful, beautiful steam trains, which I want to go get closer to, but there's a lot of people. Actually, let's see if we can get closer over here before we end the vlog. Yes, we have these beautiful old steam trains. And we took the first ride on the Disneyland Railroad that's been in months and months and months. Where was I going with that? See, I told you, I'm discombobulated. I'm really, really honestly tired, you guys. I'm running on fumes here. I'm shaping it all for the Random Land videos at this time. Okay, here we go. We're kind of sneaking up the axle here to just give you a little bit of better view. So we took the first ride around Main Street Station and what would be Tomorrowland, what's it called? Discoveryland station here at Disneyland Paris are actually closed. So only this station and Fantasyland are open. So people here are basically taking a ride, a loop around the park. You can see the cars are very different on the railroad. The engines are very different on this railroad. It's very, very beautiful. And I hope next time to be able to do a little more filming on it, a little more vlogging on there. Because yes, there will have to be a next time. When I came to Disneyland Paris this time, I was thinking, all right, I'll be here for 2 weeks, like a 17-day trip or 16-day trip or whatever it was. Then I'm gonna be able to do so much stuff and it's gonna be awesome. And then fully a week was just taken from me with bad weather. We were kind of sidelined by all the bad weather, sitting there waiting. And then all this stuff, like the railroad just reopened a few days ago. So there's all this new stuff that I have never seen before that's reopening as they undergo refurbishment, coming up on their 25th anniversary? Yes, their 25th anniversary is coming up, I think, next year, because the park opened in 92, 2017. Yeah, 25th anniversary is coming up. So they're refurbishing basically everything in the park. Look how beautiful, just look how beautiful this setting is. If I started the vlog here, would you have thought France? I certainly, seeing a picture of this, would never have thought France. This really looks like real railroads. Well, real touristy railroads I've rode Rhode Island on, like the Skunk Railroad in Northern California, or like the Yosemite Sugar Pine Railroad, or some of the ones out in Denver. This is crazy. These beautiful little rolling hills, and all this was created to tell a story for guests of Disneyland Paris here. Pretty crazy. It's pretty much the most elaborate Disney Kingdom park that I've ever been into. This is the most beautiful, well thought out, well planned, amazing place. It's too bad the Europeans didn't appreciate it. When it first opened, this place was not popular at all. It's actually always kind of lagged behind the other parks in terms of attendance, and so its budget for maintenance and stuff is very, very low. It's super crowded in the summer when everyone has their holidays, and super deserted. I almost said desolate, but not desolate, but super deserted and empty, which is super nice for me, trust me, in the winter. So it's kind of a strange thing. It's very different from the other Magic Kingdom parks at home, but I really, really love this place. Anyway, I thought I was gonna get all this stuff done, and on account of the weather, I was not able to. So I'm going to have to come back, it looks like, once again, to Disneyland Paris for even more things. But in the meantime, I'm wrapping up everything I have to do here, and I hope to see you all a little later. So I apologize for my brain being screwed up and the vlog's kind of running a little bit long, but there's so much that I want to show you, and I'm trying to pack as much in to a little amount of space as I can. Oh, there it goes. Is that the William F. Cody? There it is. It's the William F. Cody I was referencing earlier. The W.F. Cody going off into the distance. The most beautiful Disney park I have ever been to. Disneyland Paris. Frontierland. There's a little peek at it. Fenceland right now, but I'm sure all the rest of it does look like this when those fences come down. And I, for one, cannot wait to see them about a year from now. Okay, I gotta go. The wind is blowing and it doesn't like us. You've done your duty. Go home and sleep well. Also, please remember that I have t-shirts and hats like this cool one at livefastdimepoor.spreadshirt.com. People have been asking me lately, where can I get your hats and shirts? I say it every time. livefastdimepoor.spreadshirt.com. And I will be home in the United States, by the way. I should be there on the 18th, 17th, 18th, or 19th of March. My flight is on the 17th, but I don't know whether I'll be up and around doing stuff because I will be very tired. Anyway, you've done your duty. The train is leaving. Go home and sleep well.